I guess I don't have to tell you that I'm Stan Snapp and I'm running for Ward 4 City Council. That's the ward around the lake that we've all been talking about and all concerned about. Alabama Hill, Silver Beach neighborhood, and Whatcom Falls Park, that whole area of the town, east of Woburn Street, just about. I moved my family to Bellingham in 1967, attended Western, got a degree in education, a BA degree, and in 1974, when the city took over the ambulance service, I had some prior fire experience in Seattle, and I applied and went to work for the Bellingham Fire Department, and was promoted to training officer in 1980, did all of the fire department training for 7 years, and realized that there was no way I was going to do it for 10 more, so I moved on to some other things. I kept training, but I also took on facilities and safety and went to the National Fire Academy and learned about the incident command system and brought that back, and we taught all our firefighters the incident command system, and some of them we had to drag along kicking and screaming. They didn't like the idea of that kind of organizational structure, but now it's a part of all of the emergency services, not just the fire service. A couple things that I want to take credit for during that career. One of them was that I ran safety for 17 years and we didn't injure a single firefighter during that time, and I'm very proud of that. The other thing is that I managed the facility program from the beginning of the planning of the Broadway Street headquarters fire station through to cutting the ribbon, and we brought that in on time and under budget. So Bill Elfo isn't the only one who has brought in a building on time and under budget. But it's very uncommon in the public sector, as you all know. The next thing I want to talk about is my volunteer career, because it began while I was in the fire service. I started, the training officer traditionally was the one who twisted arms to get money donated to United Way. And I did that the first year because it was expected of me to do that. And I found out that firefighters didn't like their training officer twisting their arms for money, for donations, and so I started doing the rest of the city departments, and I brought the police officer in to do the fire department. That worked out a lot better. They carry the guns, you know. What I didn't realize was that I was beginning a volunteer career at the time, and I stayed with United Way for 12 years, and after about 5 years of raising money, I found out that they also disperse money. So I got involved in the committees that do that, and eventually moved to the board and the executive board, and I ended up as a fund distribution chair during my last year with United Way. Also during that, I got involved with what we now know as the Make a Difference Committee through the Volunteer Center. And the first year that I did that, we formed that committee, and pretty soon we talked about what projects can we do. And the first one we did was smoke detectors. Went into a neighborhood in transition, trained a bunch of high school kids, did all this elaborate training and structure as good training officers do, and we got all the kids together, about 50 of them at the U Street Fire Station, and told them all about what they were going to do, and you know, if they don't have smoke detectors, we're going to get their name and get them smoke detectors, and we got some money to do that, and we're going to change batteries when they need that. And did all this elaborate stuff, and I said, are there any questions? And the little kid raises his hand and he says, yeah, I got a question. He says, okay, so I go up on the porch, and I knock on the door, and they open the door. What do I say? Jeez, the best laid plans. Anyway, so I retired in 1997 from the fire department, but that didn't end my volunteer career. Then I started volunteering. The charter says if you don't work for the city, you can volunteer for the city. So I became a volunteer with the Greenways Committee. Served Seth Fleetwood was the chair of that committee when I started. Served 2 full terms there, chaired it for a couple of years. Liked volunteering so much I got involved in I volunteered for the steering committee, which coordinated the rewriting of the updating, as they called it, of the Parks, Open Space, and Master Plan for the city. Well, that update went from a little tiny document to a very, very big document. We met for every other week for 6 months with a consultant, and that's now Chapter 7 of the comp plan. And I learned a lot more about the Parks Department, and I'm now on the Parks Department as a board member. I'm in my second term there. So once I finished Greenways, we completed the Beyond Greenways and started working on a new levee. And I worked with a whole group to architect the new levee, and then worked with Don Keenan's crew to help pass it. Don chaired that. And we managed to get the Greenways 3 levee passed, which we're now in the process of implementing. And I'm the Parks Board liaison to the Greenways Committee, so I can't just seem to get that Greenways out of my system. Still doing that. In 1989, my wife and I bought property in what we all now know as the watershed, and at the time I was just looking for a property with a south-west exposure that I could build a house on. And we built our house, and then we started learning about the watershed, and we've all learned an awful lot about the watershed in the last few years. In 2001, when the city formed the Watershed Advisory Board for the buyout program, I volunteered for that and was appointed to that by Mark and chaired it for its first 2 years, and served a full term there. And we've now set aside 1,300 acres, although, as most of you know, we're out of funding, and we've got a lot of challenges there. I've also written a position paper about the watershed from all the research that I've done, and I didn't bring them here, but I have a whole bunch of them in my car just right up the hill, so if anybody would like to read more about my position on the watershed, I'd be happy to share that with you. All these years in the fire department, 17 years of working on budgets with city council, and then as an advisory board member doing presentations to council all these years. Came close to running a couple of times. Rebecca Johnson talked me out of it, a good Democrat talked me out of it one time, and I would have been running against Grant Dager if I had won that primary, and Grant Dager was my fire department doctor for 25 years, so that would have been pretty bizarre to be running against your own doctor. But Joan Beardsley ran, and she and Dick were longtime friends. Our kids went to high school together, and her passing just felt almost like a calling to me, and I have applied to the city council and then decided to run. And I would be very honored to have your vote to finish out the 2 years of her term with an option for 4 more. Thank you very much.